Hi everybody, this is Erin Byers. I'm a behavioural change peak performance coach and I'm so excited that you've all taken the time to join the webinar today. Over the next 60 minutes, I'm going to be sharing with you some key techniques and tools that I use on a day-to-day basis. And I can assure you that these tools really will enable you to move your career or your business from where you are today to where you absolutely want to be. What does your dream profession look like? Because in the next 60 minutes, we're absolutely going to be smashing out the roadblocks to enable you to get there. So in the next 60 minutes, I'm going to take you through really how to understand how your brain works and how you're able to get the most out of it. It's quite normal for a lot of us to feel chaotic with all of the information that we're bombarded with. And through some simple techniques, you're really able to get through that chaos to gain clarity. Once you have that clarity and you understand what your success looks like, we're then able to program our unconscious mind, update some of those old programs that we inherited when we were very young, to really get it aligned with how we're going to achieve that successful outcome that we're now clear on. I really want to share with you the principles of success that I live by day and encourage you to adopt these principles of success, because it's when you're able to consistently bring these into your day that you will see positive changes happening. I'm going to share with you my proven step-by-step strategy to really smash those roadblocks, remove any of the limiting beliefs that have been holding you back and keeping you where you are when you know that there is something so much better for you. And finally, I'm going to share with you how to be a master communicator that will really differentiate you from the pack and have prospective employers or customers knocking down your door because they know that you are the one that they really want to work with. Before we get started, if I can ask you to close your Skype, check your phone is on silent, and turn off any social media that might distract you. Please do take notes as we go through, or if it's easier, do feel free to take a screen grab as I go through. I will be moving through the slides fairly quickly, so make sure you get your buttons ready to capture any of those slides that you'd like to refer back to later on. I will be taking you through some exercises, and I would really encourage you to capture some screen grabs there to refer back to after the call. To clarify, there is nothing on sale today. This is not a sales call. I am genuinely going to be sharing with you real value over the next 60 minutes with techniques and exercises that, as I mentioned, I use every day to get the success that I'm looking for, and I want to share that with you today. So let's get started. Where are you now? Where is your starting position? Hopefully for a lot of you, it's at that stage where you're really excited. Either you know that you're ready to move on, you're ready to move up, or perhaps you've recently been made redundant and actually this is your opportunity to find out what it is that you actually really want to do and follow that dream. Perhaps some of you are past that point and feeling just a bit frustrated because you know that you want to move on, but nothing's really getting any traction for you, and you really just want to find out how to break that cycle so that you can start to make some progress. Some of you might be struggling with the infamous work-life balance. It's very easy to get caught up in our careers and our businesses and realize that actually we no longer have that balance. We want to be spending more time with the family, or perhaps for you it's about more travel, more leisure time, And right now, that balance just isn't something that's part of your life. Some of you might be feeling demotivated. If you're feeling that things are, you're not able to use your strengths in your work at the moment, that can really be quite demotivating, especially if you can't see how you're going to move on from where you are. Maybe some of you are constantly comparing yourself to others, and this tends to go one of two ways. Either you're comparing yourself to others with frustration that they seem to keep getting all the breaks and you're surely as good as they are, so why don't you get an opportunity like they have? Or alternatively, that constant comparison to others might be bringing your confidence down and making you question perhaps you're not as good as they are, and maybe that's why I can't catch a break. All of this can lead to a lack of confidence and really start to spiral you downward, which makes it even more challenging for you to rise up above that and follow your dreams. Perhaps some of you are stuck in a blame cycle. It's very easy when things aren't going your way to start looking at somebody else to blame. Perhaps it's your manager isn't supporting you to get the promotions that you're looking for. Maybe it's because of that lack of balance that I mentioned earlier that feels like it's holding you back, and really, if you could just do X, Y, or Z, you'd be able to make the break that you're looking for. All of these really create a lack of certainty. And unfortunately, when we have a lack of certainty, all we want to do is hold on to what we are certain about. And it's a bit like better the devil you know than that you don't. And that in itself can keep you in this stuck place. Constantly procrastinating, making excuses about, why now isn't the right time for you to make the move, to go into that business that you've always dreamed of, or to change companies, go for the promotion. Guess what? There is a fantastic solution to all of this, and it's quite simple. When you take responsibility, the future as you want to see it is literally in your hands. All we need to do is get a clear picture of what that success looks like for you, define a strategy, and really tap into all of the resources that you already have. The problem is your unconscious mind, and I speak a lot about the unconscious mind because, I'll come on to that later, but it really has a lot to do with what's driving our behaviour here. And the reality is your unconscious mind isn't clear most of the time on what you really want. So it simply makes a best guess. And this is where we can get frustrated because it feels like we're actually sabotaging ourselves from preventing ourselves from achieving those goals and outcomes that we think that we really want. Until you stop procrastinating, take those steps to get clarity, get a defined strategy, you will continue to stay in this stuck place. And the longer you stay in that stuck place, you can feel the stress increasing, your feelings of worthiness decreasing, and that vulnerability really starts to seep in. Really, we just need to break through the cloud and identify what it is that you're truly passionate about. What is it that you have innate strengths in and it feels effortless for you? The problem is often when things feel effortless for us, we're very quick to undermine them, thinking that other people find them easy as well. But that's really not the case because we all have very individual strengths and passions. When you really tap into that and get clarity around what that looks like, The next thing is to translate it into your ideal role or business proposition. From there, we program your unconscious mind. There really are no limits here, because the only limits that you think are there are limits that you are creating yourselves. Which is great, because once we can identify what those limits look like for you, and they are very individual because they tend to come from programming that we've had installed as we're growing up. Once you've identified the roadblocks, I'm going to take you through a technique today that will enable you to take away the power of the limiting beliefs and replace them with empowering beliefs. Because it's those empowering beliefs that are going to take you from where you are now to where you absolutely want to be. And you need to stand out. It's a busy marketplace out there, whether it's the job market or the business market for startups. But that's okay, because I'm going to take you through how to really differentiate your story and stand out amongst the crowd. And really, the first thing you need to do is take action. So first of all, big congratulations for actually taking the time out of your busy schedules to come on the call today. You have already taken a step forward in the direction that you want to go. And we just need to keep taking those steps to get consistent progress to achieve your positive outcomes. Before we go on any further, I just want to give you a little bit of a background about me and where I've come from. I am leading a revolution. I absolutely, passionately believe that we all should be able to work in a profession that we are passionate about. Because when we are working in an industry that we're passionate about, we are at our most resourceful, we're at our most successful, which means we're also in a place where we're able to help so many more people. My background is corporate sales, and in my last corporate role, I was a global account director for a FTSE 5 company, and it was a challenging role. I had a huge annual revenue target to hit, and I was working with account managers across over 26 countries around the world. Some days it felt like walking through treacle. And as I walked through this treacle, I thought there just has to be an easier way to go about this. And that's when I started to learn about behavioral change and peak performance techniques. And the more I learned about how our brain works and how it drives our behavior, the more I realized that actually we have the tools to create effortless success already. It is simply a case of tapping into them. So I wanted to share this with people because I think the more people who have these tools and techniques to hand, the more positive people will be generally, and that's going to have a ripple effect throughout the world about really enabling people to live their passion. So that's me in a nutshell. Right, let's get started. So first of all, I'm going to show you how to really cut through the chaos to gain that clarity that I keep talking about. Some of you might be familiar with the emotional cycle of change. This has been around since the late 70s and really maps what a typical cycle might be for anybody who's looking to make changes in any context really in their lives. First of all, we start with uninformed optimism. So I'm sure you can all relate to that. Yep, great, this is what I want to do and it's going to be fantastic. I can't wait to get started. The next phase, informed pessimism. So you've started to gather the information, started to look at, okay, so what's required? What do I need to do in order to achieve what it is that I've set out to do? That can for some people actually, really start to make things feel a bit too challenging, and realizing that maybe it's not as simple as I thought. And in some cases, actually dip down into the valley of despair, which is quite a natural journey for us, but it's not something that we have to do. But you might know some people, perhaps it's you, who tend to quit at this point and leave it for a while. You know, maybe it's a bit safer to actually just stay where I am, it's not that bad, and leave it as it is. And then after a while get frustrated again, get back into that cycle of, okay, I need to make a change, and start that whole process again. And really just keep repeating phases 1 to 3, becoming more and more frustrated. When really what you want to be doing is pushing through into informed optimism and achieving that success and fulfillment that you're really looking for. Now, I could help you, if you like, go through that whole phase, that group of phases, down into phase 2, informed pessimism, push through the valley of despair, and eventually get up to success and fulfillment. However, I find it's actually a lot more simple if we simply cut out phases 2 and 3. Forget the valley of despair. It's not a required phase. And let's just go straight from uninformed optimism to informed optimism, so that you can enjoy that success and fulfillment even more quickly and more effortlessly. How do we do that? With a really clear vision of what your success looks like and feels like. And I will come on to the importance of a full sensory vision of that success. So the first thing is to really appreciate that often what you think you want at a conscious level and what you are programmed to pursue are two different things. The law of confirmation bias tells us that we filter information to confirm our beliefs and values. So we will literally filter, delete information to confirm our beliefs and values, even if those beliefs and values don't serve us and are really not helpful for where we want to go. And if you don't know what is at an unconscious level, what programs you've picked up along the way, then it's very difficult to understand why there is a conflict and why you're not able to just effortlessly achieve what it is that you think at a conscious level you want to achieve. So let me bring this to life for you a bit. If you have a look at the screen now, you'll see a checkerboard in front of you. So if I was to ask you, are squares A and squares B exactly the same colour as each other, what would you say? So I can hear you all saying, in your heads probably, no. Square A and square B are completely different colours. So what am I on about? This is definitely a slide for you to screen grab, because I would recommend that after the call you use the website address down the bottom right, or simply Google Edward Adelson, and this checkerboard site will come up. Print a copy off and cut out the squares with A and B on them. Put them on a white piece of paper and you will see very clearly that they are in fact exactly the same colour as each other. So what's going on here? Well, if you think about it, what do you believe to be true about a checkerboard? A checkerboard needs to be alternate colours, right? In order for it to be a checkerboard. So for you to be able to filter the information so that you could see that square A and square B were exactly the same colour, you would need to change what you believe about a checkerboard. As in, you would need to change your belief that a checkerboard doesn't have to be alternate squares. Bit mind-boggling, isn't it? Think about this now in the context of your ideal career or business. At the moment, you are filtering information to confirm the beliefs that you hold about your possibilities for success. And I think it was Henry Ford who said something about, if you believe you can or you can't, you will be right. So if you believe that you absolutely have all of the resources available to be successful as you wish to be, then your unconscious mind will drive your behavior to confirm that is the case. If you have fallen into this valley of despair and things are looking a little bit dark for you, you're not feeling the confidence that you perhaps once did, then we need to work through that and get your success mindset in place. Because the important thing here is that studies have shown the top 90% of top performers and leaders have a high level of emotional intelligence. So what does that mean? They really understand what drives their behavior and what drives other people's behavior. They have high levels of empathy because they're really able to understand and put themselves in other people's shoes to see it from their perspective. When you understand what drives other people's behavior, you really can genuinely share that empathy and engage fundamentally with people. Conversely, those who have a low emotional intelligence score, 20% of bottom performers have a low emotional intelligence score. So understanding what drives your behavior and what drives others is absolutely key from an emotional intelligence perspective, and also for your ability to have your unconscious mind aligned with your conscious goals and outcomes. So now we're going to look at, once you have that clear vision of what your success looks like, is how to program your unconscious mind to work with you 24/7. Literally, while you're asleep, your unconscious mind will be preparing things ready to drive your behavior towards achieving that outcome. The unconscious mind, which I've mentioned a lot of times now, is absolutely crucial here, because in excess of 95% of our behavior is driven from our unconscious mind. So that means that less than 5% of what we do on a day-to-day basis is done at a conscious level. So if you had to drive somewhere today, just think about how aware were you while you were driving? Were you consciously thinking about putting the clutch in when you were changing gear, braking as you were coming up to a red light? In fact, recent studies have shown that F1 drivers are making adjustments to the route of their car, to the gear that they're in, to how much they're braking, nanoseconds before they actually consciously think, I need to change gear. So there is empirical evidence that is coming through to back up the fact that we are all acting and being driven from an unconscious level. So think about just how powerful it will be to get your unconscious mind aligned with your conscious mind. How do we do that? The first thing is to absolutely build a visualization of what your success looks like. Now, visualization isn't a new term, I'm sure, for most of you. And I'm sure you're familiar with hearing about sports people using visualization for decades and decades. The difference that I'm talking about here is really making your visualization a full sensory experience. So what does it feel like when you have achieved that success? What smells are there? What sounds are associated with it? So I'll give you an example. I was working with a coach many years ago when I was in my corporate role, and I shared with him the fact that I was going to go to a quarterly meeting with a C-level executive. And every quarter when I went to meet with this executive, I would basically just get beaten up about, all of the things that our company hadn't delivered. There was never any focus on all of the great things that we had done. And I would walk away from those meetings feeling just totally dejected and no further forward at all with my outcomes. And my coach said to me, "So when's your next meeting?" I said, "Oh, it's next week." He said, "Okay, and how's that meeting going to go?" I said, "Well, I've told you how it's going to go. I'm going to rock up, I'm going to get beaten up for 30 minutes and then sent off with a flea in my ear, no further forward." He said, "Yeah, no, you're right." He said, "If that's what you want." I said, "Well, of course that's not what I want." "Okay, so what do you want?" "Well, I want to go in there and I absolutely want to have the opportunity to share the real benefits that I believe these combined projects can bring to this company and to this C-level exec." Is that right? Carry on. So having shared those, he can finally see that this is actually really beneficial for him and for his company. "Okay," said my coach, "so tell me now, what happens when you're leaving that meeting? How do you feel?" So I feel absolutely ecstatic. I've got a grin on my face. I'm literally wanting to punch the air with jubilation because he has finally listened to actually what I have to share. He's been able to see the genuine value that I can deliver for him, and he's bought into it. So I am literally jumping with joy, shoulders back, just feeling fantastic. Well, let me tell you something. That next meeting went exactly as I had visualized it. I felt as wonderful as I had expected to. And that was when the penny really dropped for me here. This is so powerful. And the great thing is, your unconscious mind doesn't differentiate between real memories and full sensory visualizations. So you have the ability to create a memory bank of all of those wonderful successes that you want to achieve next, and really bring in all of the senses so that your unconscious mind simply thinks it's a memory that you've had before, because the unconscious mind can be a little bit lazy, right? It will look through its filing cabinet of memories to think, have we done this before? What's the blueprint? How do we do it? This is your opportunity to create the blueprint for the success that you want to achieve in your profession. There are a few points here to go through then, once you've got that vision and that full sensory vision, to program your unconscious mind and get it aligned to achieving this for you. I'm sure a lot of you will be familiar with the SMART goal setting process. This really takes things a lot further, because what you're doing now is working from a clear cognitive perspective. So the first thing is to make sure that you state your outcomes positively. If I was to say to you now, don't think about purple elephants, what happens? You're thinking about purple elephants, right? And this is actually how our unconscious mind takes action. You think about something, you create that visual picture in your head, and your unconscious mind will go about achieving it for you. But it doesn't differentiate between negative and positives. So if you were to think about, I don't want to have to keep going to this job again and again for the next 3 years of my life. Guess what? You will be doing exactly that, because that's what you've just programmed your unconscious mind to do. You've probably brought up a picture of what it's like, perhaps when you get to work on a Monday morning and you drag yourself to the coffee machine and drag yourself to your desk, building a full sensory vision of that you don't want. So catch yourself. If you're ever wandering down that negative route in your mind, stop. Turn it into, okay, so if that's what I don't want, what do I want? Clearly state your positive outcomes. And take responsibility for your outcomes. The thing is, everybody's pretty busy, and it's unlikely that anybody out there, unless you have a fairy godmother, is going to be focused on what you want next in your career or your profession. It's absolutely down to you to clearly state your positive outcome and then take responsibility to make it happen. As I've already mentioned, the O in program is having that full sensory-based evidence. How will you know when you've achieved success? How will your unconscious mind recognize that you've achieved success? And one thing I would really stress here is that it's so important to celebrate your success milestones along the way, because the more your unconscious mind recognizes those wonderful feelings of success, the more it will seek them out and drive your behavior to filter information to achieve those successful outcomes. The G is good for everyone involved. So this is really an ecological question. When you set your outcome, just think about the people who are important to you, your loved ones who are around you. Does your outcome, is it good for them and for you? The reason this is so important is because it will identify any underlying programs that might be sabotaging your success outcomes at a conscious level. And an example I had with one of my clients that I was working with, he was determined that he wanted to go and work in New York. And that was it. He'd set his goal, he'd visualized what it was going to be like living in New York. And yet he found that every time an opportunity arose, he just behaved erratically and did things that prevented that opportunity from going any further. When I took him through this program strategy, we actually identified that he had a very high value on family. And that meant that he was not going to do anything that was going to take him away from being in close proximity to his family on a long-term basis. And all of a sudden the pennies dropped, and he could completely see that it was entirely down to his behavior that was sabotaging those opportunities. So at that point, we were able to look at his outcome and understand, okay, so what is it about living in New York that you're looking for here? What does it feel like? And how else can you achieve that? And he realized very quickly that actually all of the things that he was looking for, he could quite easily achieve if he was able to do regular business trips to New York. And as soon as he was able to clarify that in his outcome and be so specific, the opportunities landed, and he was there in his ideal role, visiting New York on a regular basis, but still living in close proximity to his family. So this is really an important point in this programming strategy to identify and resolve any conflicts that might be at an underlying level. Resources. So what resources do you have and what resources do you need in order to achieve your successful outcome? You'll surprise yourself here because in actual fact, you probably already have all of those resources that are needed. It's simply a case of tapping into them and really bringing them to the surface. So a very quick way to identify the resources is just to take a moment now, close your eyes, and put yourself into that picture of having achieved your success. Just enjoy for a moment how good it feels. Notice any sounds around you, any smells that are telling you that you've achieved that success. And now ask yourself, what resources did I need to get here? You'll be surprised at what your mind simply throws up for you. Probably along the lines of motivation, driven, tenacity, whatever it might be. Take some time out to listen, and your unconscious mind will bring the answer up for you. And it's really easy then for you to be able to tap in and identify those resources and think about a time when you have had those available to you. And it can be in any context. It doesn't have to be specifically in a professional sense. It might be that you're a fantastic golf player, and when you're on the golf course, you just have this innate confidence and see the body language that comes immediately when you see yourself on the golf course. And it's then mapping those resources into a professional context. And finally, the M in program is making the first step. The great thing is you have all done that today. You've taken time out of your busy schedules to get on this webinar, so you've already started that process. The thing is, what keeps people stuck is not knowing how on earth they're going to get from where they want to go to from where they are now. The reality is, once you take that first step, start talking to people about your goals, start sharing with people, and take that first step, because the brain synapses will start to join up. And that's when you get into the flow. And as you get into that flow, the next step will simply appear to you, and you will be able to effortlessly move forward towards your positive outcome, and that clarity of how you're going to get there will come to you. So that is the program process of getting your unconscious mind aligned to what you consciously believe you want to achieve. I'm going to take you quickly now through the principles of success. I would highly encourage you to adopt these today. The sooner you build these in to your consistent daily behavior, the sooner you will see that positive progress that you're looking for. So 1, be really crystal clear on what your outcome looks like. Number 2, take action. Just take the first step. It doesn't matter if you know what the next one is or not. You will get in the flow and it will start to come effortlessly to you. Number 3, check for feedback. Now, this isn't checking for feedback perhaps in a sense that you might in your current role, where somebody else just tells you their opinion on whether you're doing well or not. This is about getting back in touch with your intuition, which, by the way, is really your unconscious mind, and just taking time out to do a bit of a sensor check. Does it feel like I'm on the right track? Does it feel like I'm heading where I want to get to? Or does it feel like I've perhaps become a bit stuck and I'm not moving forward? So really just take the time out to get that sensor check. If your sensor check tells you that yes, yep, you're on the right track, fantastic. Keep going, keep pushing forward. If that sensor check, on the other hand, tells you that no, it just doesn't feel like I am heading in the right direction, be flexible in your behavior. Now that might sound really simple. However, we are creatures of habit, and we seem to get it into our heads that actually maybe if we just worked a bit harder, pushed a bit harder, it will happen. Well, rather than just pushing that extra bit harder, what if you were to simply try something different? Because at the end of the day, so long as you achieve your outcome and you don't hurt anybody along the way, does it matter how you get there? I don't think so. So have behavioural flexibility. And finally, take responsibility. Nobody else is going to be out there putting your career or your business dreams first. It's absolutely down to you to be in the driving seat here. Next, I'm going to take you through the strategy to erase those roadblocks. I'm sure many of you will be familiar with, perhaps you're thinking about what it is that you want to achieve and you're in the first phase of that emotional cycle of change. And as you go towards it, all of these excuses and limiting beliefs start to pop up of why you can't make it happen. The great thing is, these are simply learned beliefs. Therefore, you're able to unlearn them. So they really are the only thing holding you back. And what I'm going to show you shortly is how to update any of those limiting beliefs and turn it into an empowering belief that's really going to fast track your career. So if you think about it, limiting beliefs are a little bit like a tabletop. So the example I've used here is a limiting belief of, I can't do a TED Talk. Now, if you've not heard of TED Talks before, I would highly encourage you after this call to Google TED Talks, because there are some really inspirational talks out there on all sorts of subjects, but particularly if you're looking for business success, promotion, startup, Google TED Talk and have a look at some of those out there, because they're absolutely inspirational. Okay, so if you think about this now, you have perhaps a limiting belief of, I can't do a TED Talk. And the only thing that keeps that belief in place is the legs of evidence that you have underneath it. And this is again a case of just simply asking yourself, what is it? What evidence do I have that keeps this belief in place? So I don't have the right qualifications, I'm not experienced enough, I'm not well known in the public eye. So you can start to get a feel for how we hold these beliefs in place. And they really are super glued emotions, because often these are beliefs that we've held on to for such a long time. As I mentioned before with the law of confirmation bias, we don't like to be proven wrong, so we will hold on to beliefs even if they're not helpful for us. But this process will enable you to change those limiting beliefs into empowering beliefs. So for instance, if the limiting belief is I can't do a TED Talk, the empowering belief might be I can do a TED Talk. Okay, so what evidence might I hold that can keep this empowering belief in place? If it's something original, I'm sure they would jump at it. I really enjoyed presenting in my last job. I'd never heard of many of the speakers who I've seen at TED. Not all of them have specific qualifications. So you can start to get a feel for the type of evidence that you need to find within to hold this new empowering belief in place. So let's do a quick exercise on this now. So grab some paper and write down a limiting belief that you have in relation to your career or business. So an example here might be, I can't change companies. Okay, so ask yourself, what evidence do I hold to keep that belief in place? I've been with the same company for 15 years. I couldn't work for our competitors because they're not as good as the company I'm with right now. I'm out of touch with anything outside of here. Most companies need their employees to have specific degrees. I've bought a house now near where I work, so obviously I can't change companies. So really draw out any evidence that you are holding to keep that limiting belief in place. Next is to state an empowering belief. There's no need to overcomplicate this. So if your limiting belief is, I can't change companies, an empowering belief might be, I can change companies. And now, using the evidence in the list on the left-hand side, I want you to draw out of yourself, okay, so what evidence do I have to uphold this new empowering belief? So for instance, I've been with the same company for 15 years. Actually, a change of environment would be a breath of fresh air. I couldn't work for our competitors because they're not as good as ours. Perhaps I could use that to lead a change in a competitive company. I'm out of touch with anything outside of here. I have a lot of experience to bring to any company. So as you work through this process, you will realize that you absolutely have the evidence available to hold that empowering belief in place. And it's only that you have been filtering the information up until now to keep that limiting belief there. This is a simple but so powerful technique, and I would really encourage you after the call, so please take a screen grab here, and after the call, work through this exercise with any beliefs that you are holding that are limiting your behavior and keeping you stuck. An example I had very recently with a client of mine who was recently made redundant after a long time working in a corporate role. His belief, he wanted to set up on his own, but he had a belief that he simply, I can't set up my own business. And as we worked through the evidence on the left-hand side, it was really clear that he was being quite risk adverse about being able to set up his own business. Now, the reality when we went through the empowering belief is that he was already absolutely at risk anyway because he'd been made redundant. So why not use this fantastic opportunity to set an empowering belief in place and go for that dream role, that dream business? And the great news is 3 months on, he's set up his business for the first time in however many years. In his words, he's got the fire back in his belly. So this is, I can't stress enough how powerful this technique is. Having worked through that part of the exercise, ask yourself these questions. How do you feel differently now about what is possible? Write down at least one action that you will take today to embed this new empowering belief. So please, as soon as we get off this call, go through this exercise and write down what that one action is, because as soon as you start, you will get on a roll and in the flow towards achieving your success here. Finally, I'm going to take you through the communication secret that really does make you stand out amongst the crowd. Differentiate your brand, whether it be your personal brand in the job market or your business brand for your startup. What we know is that everybody is different. They learn, listen, and hear different things in different ways. By some simple tailoring of your messages, you're able to really capture the whole audience. And if you can engage your audience emotionally, they will want to know more. Because guess what? Our unconscious minds, the quickest way to get our unconscious minds to take action is to engage them emotionally, which is why your full sensory visualization is so important. When your unconscious mind feels how wonderful that success is, it will drive your behavior to achieve it. So when you're looking to engage with an audience, the same rules apply. How can you engage emotionally with your audience so that they absolutely want to come with you and support you? So think about when you're sharing your message, the first thing to share is why this is relevant to your audience. Because especially those who have a why preference will be needing to have this question answered before they'll actually listen to anything else that you have to share. So why is this relevant to me? What's your credibility? What is it about you that gives you the credibility to be talking about this today? And what's in it for me? It's as simple as that. Then you have the what preference. So these are people who really need to have all of the statistics, all of the facts. What is the empirical evidence behind what it is that you're sharing with me? What structure would you use? Really demonstrate all of those facts for that what audience. How? How would you apply your ideas? Now, one thing I want to point out here is be aware as you're going through this of what your preference is, because we have a tendency to spend more time in our preference because that's where we're most comfortable, and we really need to make sure we're covering all of the preferences. So I am a how learner and communicator, so I really need to make sure that I'm covering all of those other areas as well. So, bring it to life as to setting out the solutions that you're talking about and the challenges that may have, demonstrating how you would test the theory of the information that you're sharing with people. So really how you would bring it to life for them. And then you have the what if preference. So these are the people who are looking down the line and they're going, okay, it all sounds good, but what does that really mean in my company or in my industry? So it's important that you future pace your message and put it into context for people as to what that really means in the day job. How would you take the action and really make things happen? So in summary, you will see the light bulb go on for the different preferences in your audience. So your why person has their question answered. Yep, she seems to know her stuff and I could really do with someone like that on my team. So they know what's in it for them. Your what person has their facts and figures answered and they're satisfied with the reasoning behind what it is that you're sharing. Your how people, you've painted the picture, they are ready to get going, let's get started. And your what if people are in that future role, they can absolutely see what you've shared with them in the context of how it would work on that day job going forward. And if you can really tailor your message in that order to speak to all of those different preferences, and don't forget to put the emotion in there. What does it mean for them? How can you evoke that picture of how great it's going to be for them when you come and work for their company or when they become one of your customers? So those are the 5 techniques that I'm sharing with you today. I hope you can see the real value that these techniques, the fundamental changes that they can make to helping you get that success that you want to achieve. What does that look like for you? In 6 months' time, can you now see yourself doing that role that you've wanted to do for so long? Enjoying the promotion, enjoying running your own business because that's what you've wanted to do for such a long time. If you do need help, and let's be honest, we're all busy people, if you feel like that there would be benefit for having somebody work through with you to achieve that step-by-step process, I can absolutely help you through that. And I have many clients who can share the wonderful success stories that they have had from working through with this strategy and this proven process. The question is, are you ready to take the driving seat in your career? Are you ready to step up now and take responsibility to achieve the success that you've just been dreaming of having? Where would you like to be in 6 months' time? Are you going to still be sat here watching yet another webinar thinking, God, if only I'd done something 6 months ago, I could be there by now? Or are you ready to take the plunge, take responsibility, and enjoy the wonderful professional success that you absolutely know is out there waiting for you? The choice is down to you, really. What will you do after this call to put into place the techniques, the tools, the exercises that I have shared with you? Because I can speak from experience that these work. Success is there for the taking. It's really down to you now to take action, take responsibility. Once you have that clarity, use the strategy and the step-by-step process, you can absolutely be enjoying that wonderful profession that you dream of. So if you would like any help with that, or if you're interested in finding out how I might be able to help, there'll be a link at the end where you'll be able to join a call one-on-one with me so that we can chat through where is it that you want to get to and what's stopping you from getting there now. There are a few criteria for people to be able to do that. The first thing is only sign up for a call if you are ready to take action and make changes now. If you're not, and if you're happy to go back to, sitting there dreaming about it instead of doing something, then please don't. But if you are ready to make those changes, then absolutely put your name down and sign up for a call. The other thing is you have to be prepared to smash any of those limitations that you have created. And you must be really ambitious about what it is that you are capable of, because I can assure you there simply are no limits. You are the only person between you and that success that you dream of. You'll find the link below if you do want to jump on a call with me for your free Fast Track Your Career in 8 Weeks planning session. Please put your details in below and I look forward to speaking to you soon. Have a fantastic day, and thanks so much for joining me.